Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the December 27th Women in Technology virtual group meeting. As most of you know, we meet every month, sometimes a couple of times a month when the Spirit moves us, and that's the case this month. Why can't I work a computer? We have two sponsors, the Women in Tech group does. We have Century One and Redgate. And both of these groups will be responsible for a couple of you winning either a Visa or an Amazon gift card. They're in the process of transitioning how those get sent out. So I will probably pick the people who ask the best question. So get those ready. You can always check us out. PassWit is on YouTube. Don't memorize that link. Just go search PassWit on YouTube. You'll find us there. Our homepage, wit.pass.org. We list all women speakers coming up at SQL Saturdays and webinars if we're aware of them, pre-cons, things like that to highlight women speakers in the tech community. You can always join our virtual chapter and get our monthly newsletter. It has some great information. We highlight a blogger each month. And this month, it's Tracy Baggiano. So you should have gotten that webinar earlier this week. That newsletter earlier this week. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. Be sure to check out @pass_wit or use the PassWit hashtag if you want to share any great information with us or find great information about what women are doing in the Pass community. In the next couple of weeks, we have SQL Saturday Nashville, and as always, she never fails to bring a lot of women to the speaking table up in Nashville. So I'm really pleased at a lot of the women that will be there. Sessions coming up, February 12th, Bobby Jo Brighton. She did a session for us back over the summer. She's kind of a life coach. And this one's winning the head game in 2019. And then January 3rd, so next week, Kendra Little is doing a session sponsored by Redgate Software. Get inspired, celebrate the career of 3 DevOps heroes. Kendra is a fantastic speaker, and I'm confident that you guys will love this talk she's doing for us. But today's session is Julie Smith, Introduction to Azure Search. And Julie is an MVP and a BI consultant here in Atlanta. She's kind of a big deal, although I suspect she'll deny it. She and Audrey run the datachicks.com blog, and she also happens to be my friend. So I am going to make her presenter and turn things over to her. Julie, I will mute my phone, or I will mute my speakers. And I'll monitor questions. Are you okay with me? Do you have natural breaks built in for questions, or do you want to hold them till the end?
I think that we're such a small group. I think that we can just go with them as they organically appear. That'd be great.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So I will let you go ahead, and I'm going to be muted.
Okay. And you guys can see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. All right, welcome to Intro to Azure Search. And trying to get, okay. So my name is Julie Smith, and as Ree said, I've been an MVP on the data platform actually since 2013. Right before I became an MVP, I went to work at Innovative Architects, so I've been there since 2012. And this presentation is about Azure Search, which is very closely related to web technology. It's also data technology, which is why I learned about it and I'm interested in it. But I am not a web developer. This has definitely made me want to continue learning web development, because I do try, but I just wanted to say that I'm not a web developer, so there may be some crazy things that I might say if you are a web developer. This is definitely a look at Azure Search from the point of view of a database architect's perspective. These are ways to reach me. You can reach me on Twitter at JulieChicks. And at Innovative Architects, there's my email, and Audrey and I do have a blog, datachicks.com. Very proud to work at Innovative Architects. This is a little bit about us. We have a DC and a West Palm office, but we are mostly in Atlanta, and we do a lot of great work. Reach out to us. We're always hiring, so anything that you may need, Microsoft-based technology consulting, give us a call. And to get to the topic of today, so Azure Search. Azure Search this is from the basic definition that comes from the Azure documentation. It's search as a service. It's actually platform as a service, so there's no servers to configure. And it gives web developers particularly APIs and tools for adding a rich search experience over the rest of that thing. It is kind of out of the box way to add a search engine. When you think about it, everybody is so used to a search experience. If you think about our lives, probably you did 50 to 100% of your Christmas shopping if you celebrate Christmas with markets on the web like Amazon, or any of them have. Any store has a rich search experience, and you probably used it. And so you might say, though, Julie, you're a SQL Server person mostly, you're a business intelligence consultant. How did you think that there was any relation to search engines and what you do? Well, if you go to, this is a great website. This is a screenshot from a website called db-engines.com, and it's a ranking and information, kind of like a Wikipedia, all about databases. And as I was looking at this technology, I came across this, and it was like, oh, okay, search engines are actually defined in many ways as a database management system. And they have particular properties and attributes that they all have in common. So they're almost always in NoSQL, and they have the ability to do full text searches. There are things that we're just used to, as like if you look here at the geospatial search, any store, any restaurant that you're interested in going to, almost always you go to their website and it'll say find one near me. So that gives you the way to geospatial search, gives you that ability. And they're scalable. They optimize for searching. Okay, so an important examples are Elasticsearch, these Splunk, Solr, MarkLogic, Sphinx. Again, not a web developer, so I'm not incredibly familiar with these, but I think it's great for context to have this. So enter the picture Azure Search. This is just the splash page from Microsoft Azure Search website. Looking at it, it is it's great. It's platform as a service. Why do you need it? Okay, so it is kind of like saying if I wanted, I don't know why this metaphor came to my mind, and it may not be brilliant, but it was kind of in my mind. I was like, okay, if I wanted to put a float in a parade, well, I might want to start with a truck and put some flowers on it, rather than trying to build the engine and melting down the steel to make the motors and et cetera. You get my point. It gives you, it starts you out, 100 miles down the road as far as your progress and where you are you can get going much faster because it has these things that we're familiar with: a search engine, a way to make full text searches, things that are similar. So users expect it. It's familiar. Every app has it. Why use Azure Search in particular? If you're already working in the Azure ecosystem, it works fantastic. It's easy to implement. This is from my experience. We worked with Azure Search with a product at Innovative Architects. It was easy to implement. We just had a great experience with it. So our use case at Innovative Architects, it was we were working for our client was a construction company, in particular flooring. So they were the guys that did flooring for nice houses. You go and you order, I want this kind of marble and that kind of tile and that kind of thing. And they had, we were building a web application for them because they had many locations, geographical locations. we were building a web app for them so that they could order the flooring for the houses and put that together. The problem that they were having was that they didn't have a robust application at that time that would make them pick the right product from their inventory. So they were allowed to just freeform enter anything. And so they had incredibly dirty data. And so what we were trying to do is to let them put in what a shaw carpet padding, and then we wanted to match that with the exact item from the inventory. So we thought that this was a master data management problem, or we thought it was maybe we needed machine learning, full text. And I, just kind of keep my eyes open and my ears open, and I saw Azure Search go by on something. I'm like, wow, they have something that's Azure Search, and I investigated it, and I did a quick proof of concept, kind of like I'm going to show you later in the demos, just in the Azure portal, strictly with the data, not building a website, but just showing them the search capabilities that Azure Search could give them. And everyone was like, wow, this looks perfect. It looks like exactly what we need. And we implemented it, and it was fast and easy, and it worked, and everyone was really, really pleased. So we had a great experience with it. So as I said, it is a platform as a service in the cloud offering ecosystem. You've got your infrastructure, you've got your software as a service, and you have platforms as a service. It's a platform. It's NoSQL, it's JSON. This is a screenshot of the demo index that I'm going to be working with later on today. So you can see it's JSON, and there's an open source project, Apache Lucene, that is it is based on, and many other search engines are based on. So Apache Lucene is foundational to Azure Search, and it is foundational to a lot of search engines. Solr, and another one that was on that list uses Lucene as its backend. So that's where you can go. That's a URL to check out Lucene. It refers to many things. It's a very broad term, actually, because it's the name of the open source project. But there are enterprise-ready for sale offerings that use Lucene as its source. And then Lucene also refers to the query language and syntax, and we're going to look at just a little bit of that, but just kind of like Transact SQL has a particular syntax. When you are querying your search engine indexes, which is, you can think of that as like a database, you use Lucene query syntax. So it's a broad term. It refers to many things. Oh, there's Solr and Elastic and Azure Search are based on it. So, okay. I'm going to do all my slides just as a note. I just realized I've been talking a lot and want to let you guys know there's demos coming, but I'm just going to get through my slides. And so if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them, but also know that the material that I'm covering in these slides, I will touch on as we get to the demo so that it all goes together and it becomes clear. So the basic architecture inside Azure Search is that you have, as far as the search service, you have indexes, and you can think of that, because I come from a relational database world thinking, I think of that as like a database. And then a schema, you can think of as what I would think of as the basic unit as a table in a relational world. And you have documents, and documents to me kind of are equivalent to rows. And this is very JSON type thinking. And another basic part of the architecture of Azure Search are these objects called indexers. And indexers are, if you've ever heard the term web crawler, indexers are the object, the mechanism basically that keeps the data inside the search engine fresh. So it's kind of like an update ETL process that is very particular to a search engine. Okay, so this drawing here comes from the white paper from David Chappelle, not the comedian, just a guy named David Chappelle. This is the official Microsoft white paper. And a great way to think of it is that Azure Search is its own, as I said, it's a search engine database. It's going to be parallel to your operational data. So you're going to keep your operational data in whatever system is working best for you, relational, NoSQL, whatever is working, but it's a separate database that's optimized for inventory and sales and transactions and the important data that you need to sell your items, and the important data if it's not a market, but whatever you need to optimize for search is going to be in this separate object in the search engine, particularly into the indexes. And then what happens is as your inventory changes or you get more items, you get another brand added to your store, etc., however that may work, just life and business, the changes are going to be applied to your search engine and your indexes by using the indexer. It's configured to hourly, to daily, every 15 minutes to check your source data and then to update your search engine data. So this is, in an ideal world, this is how the ecosystem would work. So you've got your application, your user, it's doing search requests to find the thing to buy and then to buy it, and this would get updated here. So then that would get reflected back to the search engine through the indexer. Okay. The last time I did this presentation, someone had a really great question about what sources can you use, and so I have a screenshot here of import data, and you can see that it's down to Azure SQL Database, SQL Server on Azure VMs, Cosmos DB, and so it's very geared right now to work very easily with Azure. Of course, that makes sense, but there's another note here. This is from a separate page in the documentation. Non-Azure data sources are fully supported, but rely on more code-intensive push methodology. So, what that means is, of course, everything is JSON-based, so you can basically roll your own. You can, using the APIs, you can pipe any JSON document into a search engine index. So you can do anything. It's just, it's going to be more custom as a solution. Okay. So getting into a schema, if we think of, this is from the white paper, if we think of a schema as having these attributes, so let's say I'm defining a schema, and this is from the white paper, and this is a great screenshot. It shows a shoe catalog that is in a search engine. So we have these attributes. The category, the brand, the style, the color, the price, the picture, stock promotion. And this shows the particular attributes that are available in Azure Search. And these are very important. So when I mark an attribute as searchable, then that means it participates in the full text searching that a search engine is optimized for. Now, it's great that there is a picture in this search engine because it gives you a really good illustration of these attributes. So I can't do a text string on a picture. So that's why it's not searchable or suggestion or sortable or any of these others. But it is retrievable, and that makes perfect sense because in my search engine web experience, I want to find exactly what I'm looking for, and then I want to be able to see a picture of it. So this is a great example. So that's searchable. This is retrievable. That means it comes back in the query result. Suggestions means it's participating in that ability to, I start typing something in, like S-N-E-A, and it's going to say, oh, you mean sneaker. So it's going to participate in that behavior. Sortable, self-explanatory. Retrievable means that it comes back in the search results. So I've often made the mistake of making something one and not the other, thinking that it would be both searchable and retrievable, because I think of my experience in T-SQL land. But you have to say, no, it's searchable and it's retrievable.
So quick question, Julie, before you move on to something else, and I think this is still an appropriate time. Updating the Azure side of the equation from the OLTP data store, is there a horrible downside to updating more frequently, like real time?
You know, I would I would say no, because, but I don't know. So I don't know from vast experience. But I would say that no, because they say that Azure Search is very, very scalable, and you can make replicas, and you can also partition. So as your solution grows and scales, I'm sure that there's Microsoft advice on handling that. I believe that the most frequent that it allows is every 15 minutes. And I do not have performance counters on that. But this is definitely geared towards a web scale solution. And so I've not ever heard of people complaining about the performance of it. In fact, as I said, at IA, I'm not a web developer, but I gave this to those guys, and everybody was just like, I can't believe how fast it is, and I never heard complaints about speed. So I hope that answers it. I don't have great statistics or great experience as far as a huge scale on this, but I know that there would be Microsoft advice on that. There's lots of it in there, and anyone can reach out to me, and I can try and point you in the right direction. Is that good? Does that answer the question? We good?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's it. I think we're good. I'm sorry.
Okay, great. The last one that's fun here is okay, so this is a fun word. I'm pointing at it. It's facetable, not face table. And facetable is, let's see if I have it. Okay, so basically what this allows you to do is to say an attribute such as a category is a great example of something that I would want to make facetable. Then I'm saying, okay, I'm looking for men's athletic shoes, and then I can see here the category has been made facetable, and so category of sandals, it gives me the number of results, and it's clearly sorted in descending order as far as the number of results. So this gives you the ability, without having to hand roll this and code it yourself, to create these things. And again, I never thought of this until I started looking at Azure Search about how basic this is to almost every e-commerce site of these facets that you see. So we've got category, we've got sizes. Down below that, that's been made facet. So that gives you that ability just right in the product, just baked in, go. Why would you want to use Azure Search? Another reason is because if you build the search experience yourself for your own website, web app, you're able to add weighting yourself rather than leveraging something. Like I know that you can kind of leverage Google and other bigger search experiences for your own purposes in some web apps. But if you do it yourself and you use Azure Search, you can say, I want this particular supplier to show up as a higher, more relevant in the search results because whatever reason that is proprietary. Like we're pushing, we're pushing this particular supplier, this particular vendor. We're wanting you to see things that are on clearance first. It gives you pretty precise ability to affect the relevancy of your search results. There's some new features in preview. One is called cognitive searching. And I don't know how many people deal with Azure things regularly, but I just was in here working through my demos to show you guys. And it's a new experience as far as how the cognitive searching works. It's pretty cool. I'll give you a little peek at it. But basically, it allows you to apply more artificial intelligence to the search experience. So it'll allow you to, if I have an attribute and it has a bunch of just free-form text, there's a way using a cognitive search that I can say, find all the names and find all the people, find all the product names, or find all the keywords. Another thing, and cognitive search, by the way, is another Azure service. So this is a way to use them in concert. Another thing that is available are called synonyms. I'm not entirely familiar with synonyms, but what it does is it allows you to make connections between terms that are not available through any artificial intelligence. Maybe they're very particular to your particular situation, a particular abbreviation, a particular grouping. It allows you to create those on your own. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind is the structure of your queries and how you work with the search. This is how you submit. This is basically how you would submit a query to the search engine using the API. This is a screenshot of one of my queries in Fiddler. So you're always going to, if it's a query, you're going to get, which is kind of like saying pull or select. This right here, this URL refers to the index that I am querying. This is just saying I'm in Fiddler, da da da. This is the key that I will need, this is the host URL. Right in here, you see indexes, you see the name of the index, and I am doing a very simple search where all I'm doing is searching for the keyword DBA, and that would return that. I can also do a put. Right, I can do a put, and that has a slightly different structure. I'll show it to you towards the end of the demos. A put I can use to create an index, and a post I can use to load documents in that index. Again, I mentioned that Lucene is a term, but if I'm going to use a Lucene parser, that gives me the ability to do wildcard and fuzzy searches. The tilde will let me do a fuzzy search. So if I do PIZA and then end it with the tilde, it will find the real world word pizza. Allows you to filter. So I've got some examples of writing some Lucene queries. I'm by no means an expert on it, but I've got some fun examples of that I will use to query my Azure search engine. So here's some resources, and I'm doing this to help everybody remember and help me remember. This is the order of the demos I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the portal, and I'm going to create a brand new Azure Search service, and I'm going to show you where you obtain the URL and the key that you need to work with it. Then we're going to import some data from an Azure SQL database, and we're going to do that to create an index and an indexer. Okay, so that'll be creating a service so you can see that experience. The next thing we're going to do is go to a pre-baked Azure Search service that I have, and I'm just going to run some queries. I'm going to show you some of those expressions that I was talking about. We'll do some fuzzy searches and some filtering and count and that kind of thing. And then the last thing I'm going to show you guys is go into a little program called Fiddler that allows you to do API calls, and we're going to create a new index and load it. Okay, so I'm going to move over to the portal, and this is my pre-baked search service, but I am going to go to the portal, and I am going to create a new one to show you guys how to do it from start to finish. So I'm going to create a brand new service. In the portal, and I went to create a resource and looked up Azure Search. I can't even, it's in the hundreds of the number of services that are available in Azure, so it's overwhelming and it changes a lot. Okay, so here's more information about it in the Azure portal, and I'm going to say, yeah, that's great, and I'm going to create one. Okay, you have to give it a name. Okay, using my subscription, I'm just going to pick a random resource group because I am going to delete this after I'm done, because otherwise I will lose all my Azure credits. All right. put it in a location that is fairly close to you. Pricing standard, they're going to throw you into automatically by default the most expensive pricing tier. You can do a free service, one per subscription. So I already have one, so I'm not going to pick for this one. That's why I'm going to go to the basic and select it. And create that. And this might be a good time to, if there are any more questions while we wait for the...
I don't see any more right now.
Okay. That's fine. Let's see.
And I must say, I mean, it's not because people aren't engaged. I think it's because you do such a good job of explaining points. Because everybody's engaged. You know, I can see if they're paying attention or not. Everybody's engaged. So.
Well, thank you. All right. Did it really finish? I don't think that's the one I did. Let's see. Recent. I'm looking for demo. It takes a minute sometimes for these to, let's see. Yeah, okay. No, that's not it. It was demo with search. Let's see here. Usually I get a little thing, so I'm wondering if I somehow did not quite create it. Let me try and add one again. Create a resource, make sure I didn't mess that up at the last minute and not hit the last create button or something like that. Azure Search. Create. So it gives us a little nice time to review. Demo 2. Huffman. Select basic. Validating. I think I got it this time. There we go. I must have canceled out of it somehow. There we go. So I've created a brand new search service, and the important parts when you are first working with it is going to be your URL, which you can click here to copy. Seems to me like most people have a notepad when they're working with Azure services, and we're copying it over, especially when we're just doing proof of concepts. So you're going to need that, copy that, and then we're going to go to the keys, and you can copy that as well. So I'm going to open Fiddler and show you what I'm talking about. So like here is the URL in any request that you make to your search service, and you're always going to need your API key, and that's part of your header is going to be the URL and the key. And of course, programmatically, you utilize these very similarly. Okay. So now going back to the overview of the search that I just created, the fastest way to get up and running and create an index and an indexer and get your data in it is to go from the portal, go to import data. This is a brand new service. It's a green field. What I can do, so this is, oh, I didn't mean to do that. That was a total mistake, misclick. All right, what I can do is click the drop down here for sources. I'm going to go to Azure SQL database, and you need a connection string here. Now, if you could say Azure SQL database and choose an existing connection, it will bring up everything that's in the same subscription that's Azure SQL database. So you can see all mine. There's dog rates, right? Okay. And I'm going to use today Wide World Importers. That's a Azure SQL database that is in the same subscription. I'm going to give it a name. And I learned earlier today that it does not want to really actually keep my password in here, so I have to type it in again. But because it's the same subscription, it pre-filled that Julie@JAS. I'm going to test that connection, and it worked, yay. And so once it is validated, then it's going to scan the database and look for all the tables and views, and I know that I want that table. And if anyone's played with the Worldwide Importers sample database that's been available for a few years, this is basically the stock items from that database, but I made a few changes so that it would be very effective as a demo. So here it is. Switch over to SSMS. Hey, Reed, what's up?
Hey. Sorry. So have you tried any of the samples listed in the data source dropdown? I guess yes, if that's what you're using now.
The samples, I have tried them, and they are a great way to get up and running. Just go and do. We would go back a step, and instead of using your own source, you can just use a sample. It's a great way to get up and running. It'll just create an indexer. It will. I think it's got. There's a Seattle real estate search that it'll give you, and I think that there is. I can't remember if I may have gotten the hotels index that I'm going to show you at the end. That might be a sample that I've reworked. I can't remember, but yeah, I've done it, and it's a great way to get up and running.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So this is looking at SSMS. This is the data. Okay, so we've got the name, and this is like IT gag joke products. I have a supplier name, which I'm going to use. Price, which is great. Custom fields, and you can see that this is another JSON object, and that was something that we did at IA, is that we had so many fields in some of our product catalogs that Azure Search didn't have enough room. It had a limit on the number of attributes you could put, so we could take them and just put them in a giant field and just kind of say extra, right? But that search engine is so robust that it would still be able to participate in the search. So that was really great and gave us flexibility. And here's the thing that I added to this myself for Azure Search, is that I have a last updated column. And I'm going to show you why that's important. So, but you can probably guess that the last updated here, I can make that the trigger column on the indexer. So I can say, you're going to go every day, and if something is changed in the last updated column, then you're going to update it in your search engine experience. So that's why that's there, and that's how that would work. So this, I was saying there's new stuff, add cognitive search optional. I'm back in my importing data. This is new for me, so I don't have any cognitive search services deployed, but I wanted to show you this is pretty cool. I can pick a attribute in, like I could pick custom fields, and I could say, hey, use cognitive searches, which is another Azure product, and say extract key phrases. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to skip it and go to the regular Azure Search stuff. Okay, so remember the slide where I had retrievable, filterable, sortable, facetable, searchable. This is where you pick and choose those properties. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name my index. It has to have a key. It's given us one, which is great. And then I'm going to say, definitely the name of the product, I want it to be retrievable. I definitely want it to be filterable, sure, sortable. I don't want it to be facetable because it's the last thing that I'm looking for. So I'm going to skip that. And I'm going to say searchable, yes. And you'll see when you say searchable, that's when this analyzer box appears. And this is where that full text Lucene experience query comes into play. And you see there's a drop box. And this is the real great aspect of Microsoft Azure Search, is that they have the ability to have custom search experiences for 56 languages. They're adding them all the time. And then it will always say Lucene versus Microsoft. Lucene is basic Lucene, and the Microsoft is proprietary Microsoft algorithms. I think the Microsoft stuff is what they, would be coming from Bing. The difference I have heard, don't know how true this is in every case, but that Lucene is going to be a little bit faster of search, and Microsoft, Microsoft says, is a better search experience. If I want fields to participate in the ability to have suggestions, then I just need to give my index a suggester. So I'm going to give it a name, and now these light up, or they are available. And just search mode, if you click information, it says this is the set. I don't actually understand this, but I always pick analyzing and fix matching. I believe there's only one choice right now. I believe there might be a plan to have more choices later. So let's do definitely supplier name is going to be all the good stuff. Sortable. I want supplier name to be facetable because I would like that box on the left that says I have 12 from Nike, 10 from Adidas. Searchable, definitely. Okay, so you get the idea. I'm not actually going to work with this one. I'm just stepping through. So then I'm going to show you next, create an indexer. Okay, so we have once, hourly, daily, custom. Those are the options, and it says if I want to do anything, if I do once, or I just say load it and go, then I don't have the option of my, it's called the high watermark column. But the high watermark column is that trigger column of this is the column or attribute to look for a change that I showed you in SSMS. So obviously I would pick last updated for this if I wanted to schedule this. You can also track deletions. I'm just going to do this once just to show you guys, and we're going to submit it. And this might be another good time for questions if there are any, because now we're loading the data. So it throws me back to the overview screen. And here is the index that I have just created. And here is the indexer that I've just created. And it says it's in progress. And the portal is a little slow. There's some latency there, but you can see doc succeeded 229. That means it loaded all 229 rows from that table. And see, there's a lag here. Yep, still a lag. Okay, now we're here. We've got them showing an index. And now, fun stuff. I clicked on the name of the index to get to the index page. Here's where I can see the attributes that I have created. And here's the fun part where I can go to Search Explorer. And I can do nothing and just say search. And I get back results. So this is all 229 documents that are in this search index. And so that was from start to finish, creating a search engine. And now I am going to go to my pre-baked one because this one doesn't have all the attributes and the properties working the way I want them for the queries that I've got written. So for the queries that I've got written, we're going to go to my pre-baked, but this is the same table, and it is a search engine that's a search service and an index that is created with the same wide world of importers data. So I'm going to go over here, and you can see it's the same attributes, but I've got the properties a little bit different, and we're going to go to the Search Explorer. And then I got my cheat sheet, and this works much better when I have two screens, but we can just have some fun here. Okay, so doing everything, we get back everybody. So if we say DBA mug, and you can see that it translates what you're typing in for a basic search. It translates it into that. Basically, this is Lucene query. It's also known as OData query or OData syntax. And you can look that up. And now my results are different, but it's not obvious that they're different. So one way that we can always just get a quick count is to, this is when we start using OData syntax and doing real Lucene type queries. We're going to say it's a DBA mug and I want the count. And so that I do that by saying $count equals true. So put that in there. And you see I've added this. Now I've got this count. And you can see how if you're a web developer, you can start plugging these values into your UI. The other thing that you get back that's really important is the search score. That is basically the relevance. The higher the search score, the more relevant it is, and the closer to the top of your result is the document going to be. There is no ceiling on it. That's very interesting. That was very interesting to me. I was used to with fuzzy matching. Usually, it's somewhere between 0 and 1, where a 1 is a perfect match. I've seen search scores up to 40 points, something. There's no ceiling on it, but it always goes along with the higher the search score, the closer match it is to what you're looking for. Okay. So if I just wanted to see how many are in here with no filter, and that's my 229. And everything, there's no other filter or other thing that it's trying to match, so everything has a 1. Let's look at some fun stuff. We can also add a top 2, so I can get the count, but then only return top 2. So if I say DBA mug, give me the count of everything, but only show the top 2, that's how I would do that. So I've got 43, but it's actually only showing 2 results. Okay. Here's where I can filter things. So if I wanted to look for, this is a product in there that I know about, so I said USB food flash drive, where it says cookies. This query is going to return things that are close to that product name, give me the count, give me the top 10, but then filter it where the supplier name equals Graphic Designer Institute. All right. So there really was only one where the supplier name is Graphic Design Institute. Seeing this kind of helped me understand how some websites work. I was like, oh, now I know why that gets it, because that. Let's look at faceting. Faceting is that basically in a web experience, and it gives you that little box on the left that breaks things down. I have this many of that supplier name, this many of that. So it gives it to me as an object in the JSON first. So the facets are supplier name, and I've got 74 from this supplier, 67 from this, down, and then I get the actual search results. So it's an additional set of data that comes back from the search experience. And here is a link. I think I've given you this, but this is Lucene examples where I've shown you that. This is a fuzzy search. Let's see if that works. The fuzzy search is this little tilde on the back. Stock item name being like pizza. Yeah. And the one that actually has pizza in its name has the highest result score. Okay, so I think I'm doing pretty okay on time. Am I supposed to go to 12:30 or 1 p.m., Reed? Who remembers?
12:30. So you're good.
Okay.
People can stay as long as they want to stay. And
Awesome. Okay, so I moved over to Fiddler, and this is the whole "I'm not a web developer" gets very relevant. I've learned how to do the things I want to do in here. I don't know how web developers use this on a day-to-day basis, but I know that this is one way to do API requests to my Azure Search, and I've learned how to do a few things. So going to this command, this is a put request, and what I am doing is I am going to be creating an index in this search service called hotels. And here I am defining, in the request body, I define the schema. So I've got the names and the data types, and this is where those filterable, sortable, those properties that apply to the attributes are defined. If I wanted to just do something programmatically, this is how I would do it. Now I'm going to check. I'm going to go back to the portal because I may or may not have hotels in there right now. Let's see here. Now, I do have it, and so I'm going to delete it. And I have to make sure that I'm serious by typing it in. Okay, so we go back and I refresh. I just want to, this is the whole nothing up my sleeve. Hotels isn't there, but here's the key, which I will change after this demo because now it's out there in the world. So this is how I'm doing this right now. Here is the URL, and I'm going to execute this, and I get a result here that it worked. Over here, I double click that. It's like, oh, it worked. Great. And go back to the portal just to see. And there it is. I programmatically created it. It doesn't have any data in it. So I'm going to go back to Fiddler, and I'm going to go to my composer. And this is a post command. So this is a post command, a request. There's the key, there's the URL, and here is the data. So here's where I've created some JSON. This is going to put 4 documents in this index. It's going to load that. I'm going to execute that, and I got a happy. If it turns red over here if it fails. So that looks like all good. If I go back to the portal and refresh, sometimes it takes a while. Because honestly, if I go over here, I've noticed it does this. I'm going to do a search, just a full search on my new index, and it brings back all 4 of them. So sometimes it takes it quite a minute to show it on the portal. Data count 4. So let's go back. She is so stubborn. They really are there. And lastly, I'll just show you, I'll show you some gets. This is going back to the wide world index with the goofy IT products. And we're looking for a DBA mug or anything with the word DBA in it, and we're going to get the count. So this is just request, basically running a query, and we don't need anything in the request body. So this is how you obtain this with Fiddler. It worked, and the way to see the results is to double click on the result over here on the left, and and this is the response. So it would be just like if I had run this in the portal. And again, you can see this would be something that would be easily rendered in a website. So I had 15 that came back, and here they are. I'm going to go back. I'm going to keep refreshing this until it shows. Come on. Oh my gosh. They are there. We saw them. So that is the conclusion of this introduction to Azure Search. Are there any more questions or any fun queries that you could think of that you could see if I could type on the fly?
I do have one question. Let me pull this back up really quick.
Okay.
They make it so easy in GoToWebinar to have to answer questions. So I have two. So how does the indexer work if the data source is on-prem? Like, what is the mechanism that facilitates updating the data?
So if it's not an Azure VM, then that goes into the, sure, you're going to have to write more custom things. You're going to have to write that custom bridge to the on-prem data source. And if it is an Azure VM, I want to look at that and find out the answer to that, because I bet you there's something built in. But I've never actually played with a data source that was an Azure virtual machine.
And then I have, can you return to the last updated column use? They're asking for a little more context around that usage.
Sure. Okay, let's go back to indexers. Okay, so let's go to an indexer. Actually, let me do that. Okay, I'm creating a new indexer to show you the import process and show you that feature and how it works. So let's just skip that. Skip the cognitive search. Just make that. Create an indexer. Give it a new name. Okay. Apologies. I'm going to discard all this. You define the high watermark column in the data source itself. So I'm going to go to the data source. Okay. So to the data source, inside the data source, whatever it is, and here it's a table. That table in Azure has a column called last updated, and I say, because I am tracking the changes, that I'm going to track the changes, and I'm going to say use the last updated column to do that. And then I can associate an indexer with the data source, and the indexer schedule, whether it's hourly or daily, it's kicked off, it's scheduled to run just by, it's going to use UTC time, and it's going to look for changes in that column since the last time it ran. So what it would be looking for would be, I'm only going to update the documents inside the Azure Search if this value is greater than the last time it ran. Or different than the last time it ran. Is that answering the question as far as how it works?
I would guess so.
It's like change tracking, basically. You're saying this is the column to monitor, or this is the attribute to monitor in the data source.
She says, awesome, thanks.
Okay.
So I'm going to guess that answered it. So,
cool.
And
it's basically you're wiring it up in the data source, and then the data source has a change tracking column to monitor, and the indexer has a schedule, and so they work in conjunction.
cool. And that is the last question that I have for you.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, just parting words. I think that getting in there and playing around with Azure stuff is just amazing. This is one of my favorite stories because it was fairly easy, and it was such a success for us. And it was, I mean, I think that that's probably what people at Microsoft want, more stories like this of we created the service and it just works. You know, you don't often hear that in IT, but the dream is always it just works, and I feel like this was a situation where it really did just work. Cool stuff. Thank you guys for coming.
So absolutely, thank you all very, very much for coming. The 2 gift cards are going to go to the 2 people who asked the questions. I was going to give one to Gina anyway because she has been fantastic on Twitter for the WIT session, so we appreciate that. So Gina gets one of them, and John Morehouse is going to get the other. And
hi guys, is that Gina Moronic?
Yes.
Oh hey, I like you guys.
Should I unmute her? So no, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, if you want, it's just hi guys. I Facebook associate with you guys all the time, so thanks for coming.
And don't forget upcoming session January 3rd with Kendra Little. Get inspired, celebrate the careers of 3 DevOps heroes. We'd love to see you there. And I should have this session uploaded to YouTube later today. I'll share the link on Twitter. Feel free, everybody who's attending, to share it far and wide as well. Julie, when are you doing the next Atlanta MDF meeting? Do you know? Have I harassed you for that yet?
I think you and I said February.
Oh, that's right. It is February because I'm doing a user group for Albany, New York that night, so I don't actually get to see it. So I should plan that better. I should turn down user groups that are on the same night.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. So thank you again very much. I'll have this recording up later today, and I really appreciate you guys attending on this week where there is no time and space, and you don't have to be anywhere, and you don't know what day it is, right? And you forget to go to your daughter's doctor's appointments. So, okay. Have a fantastic day, guys.